Welcome to Inside Transportation, presented by the King County Department of Transportation in conjunction with KCTV. I'm Matt Reichmann. Thanks for joining us. Well, you could think of it as a big thumbs up for Metro as well as a big challenge. When King County voters overwhelmingly passed the Transit Now initiative in November of 2006, they were not only voicing their approval for Metro, but also asking for a whole lot more service, up to 20% more over the next decade. As of this year's February service change, Transit Now has turned 1 year old and in its first year has expanded service significantly.
Will be 5th and Stewart. Here you'll find the Westlake Center.
February of 2008 meant a whole lot more to King County Metro than just its usual service changes. Transit Now, a voter-approved initiative that promises up to 20% more bus service by 2016, turned 1 year old, and service has already expanded significantly. Metro added more than 38,000 hours of service in 2007 after Transit Now passed in late 2006. This included improved service to Lower Queen Anne, Capitol Hill, First Hill, Ballard, the U District, as well as several South King County routes. In addition to that service, 16,000 hours were added for this year's February service change to revise more than 30 East Side routes and add 2 new routes between Bellevue and Redmond. With all that new service in place, Metro will turn its attention to neighborhoods in East and South King County that currently have fewer service options. By the end of 2008, a total of 100,000 new hours of service will be in place. At a ceremony announcing the opening of the Redmond Transit Center, Metro General Manager Kevin Desmond announced that all this new service comes just in time, because riders are flocking to Metro buses in record numbers.
We're coming off a really terrific year at Metro Transit and really our region's transit. We had our highest ridership ever in 2007 with over 110 million boardings on our bus system and another 3 million boardings on our van pool, van share, and paratransit system accessible services. It was a little over a year ago that voters gave us approval for Transit Now, where we could start pumping in new resources, desperately needed resources, for our transit system in this region, and that's going to serve this facility very well in the years to come.
The new Redmond Transit Center is part of another Metro milestone that will be rolled out in 2010. Rapid Ride, though still in developmental stages, will provide 10 to 15 minute frequency along 5 key transit corridors. The Redmond Transit Center will be part of the corridor connecting Bellevue and Redmond. These are the concept buses for Rapid Ride, European-style hybrids to go along with contemporary bus shelters to maintain speed and reliability. This spring, Metro will break ground on a 380-stall parking garage across from the Redmond Transit Center and plans to have it finished by June of 2009. This massive effort of putting new service in place couldn't have been done by Metro alone. King County Executive Ron Sims says it's a group effort.
And I says it occurs for several reasons. 1, great partners. 2, superb elected officials. 3, great citizens, great passengers. We couldn't be in a more unique place to be a model for the rest of the country. So I want to thank our riders, I want to thank our elected officials, I want to thank our partners, I want to thank the citizens of King County for being such supporters of public transportation so we can continue to make the investments in things like this.
The Transit Now initiative seems to have passed at just the right time. As you heard Kevin Desmond say in that last piece, ridership is at an all-time high. To help us get a sense of how Metro plans to meet ridership demands, we welcome in Victor Obeso. He is the Manager of Service Development at King County Metro. Thanks for joining us, Victor.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to do this segment a little bit differently from how we normally do. I've gone out and gotten a few questions from just regular riders at Bellevue Transit Center and also a couple from downtown. And so what we'll do is we'll roll the question and then we'll come back and have you give us the answer. So let's take a look at it.
The question I have for King County Metro is what are the plans to accommodate a larger ridership now that a lot of people are getting out of their cars and riding buses?
All right, so Victor, he wants to know what Metro's plans are for the larger ridership, and this gets into a whole bunch of different issues. So what's the first thing that you want people to know?
Well, it's a great question because the first thing we want people to know is we've been ready for more ridership to come to the system. We've grown by about 15% in ridership over the last 3 years. About 55,000 people per weekday is the number of people we're carrying beyond what we were 3 years ago. And we think that the system that we have in place is located in the right places, is connecting the right activity centers to the right residential areas, and it's provided an opportunity for people to use transit as employment has grown, as gas prices have risen. We operate about 1,200 Metro buses and another 200 under contract for Sound Transit for the regional express routes that operate in King County. And the Transit Now initiative will allow Metro to grow its transit fleet by about 175 more buses over the next decade through about 2016. And in addition to that, it'll support the increase of service by about 20% over today's levels.
Well, I think one of the things that he was asking about is there is some crowding on some routes due to the fact that we've had this huge increase over the last few years. So, what are some of the things that are in place in terms of, Metro's plans to help out some of those crowded routes?
So Transit Now gives us a couple of opportunities to do that. One is a dedication of a large amount of those resources are to improve the frequency of buses and the span of service, the number of hours that we operate each day on 30 high ridership corridors in King County and another 5 corridors where we will implement Rapid Ride, Metro's version of bus rapid transit. On those 35 corridors reside about 50% of King County's residential population living within a quarter mile of a bus stop. So there'll be more frequent service, more hours of the day on those routes. Transit Now also gives us the ability to manage our current routes better than we have been over the last number of years. Being able to add additional trips where we have crowding existing, being able to add some running time to routes where the on-time performance of a schedule has not been up to par. So we have resources for both of those, kind of trying to put more service in the right places and to manage our system in a way where the most crowded areas get some additional trips, get some relief. Through those 175 buses, we'll also have the ability, more so than we do today, to put our 60-foot articulated buses, the larger bendy buses, some people refer to them as, in place where we currently have some 40-foot buses. So we add seats to a given trip in that kind of fashion. The thing about the growth of the transit system is it represents the success of Metro in being ready to accommodate people's travel wishes and alternatives. It also represents that King County is becoming more of an urbanized area. And what's common to successful transit systems around the world is that a lot of people want to use them, and they are somewhat crowded. In some cases, very crowded. And I think particularly people who commute during our peak commute hours will need to look for more often. Buses will be full more often. People will be standing in the aisles as they use those. That's part of becoming a more urban area.
But the capacity is coming, just not necessarily right away, but it will be there as Transit Now is implemented more and more.
Transit Now is a growth or a gradual fashion over the 2007 to 2016 period, where people will see some differences in their service. They will see some differences in the number of buses. It will come over a period of years, so some folks will need to have some patience in waiting for that, and others are already gaining the benefits of it as we began implementing Transit Now in February 2007, and we've continued with each service change.
Got it. All right, well, let's go ahead and listen to question number 2.
I would like to know, how can you request a 935 to run more on Saturday and Sundays?
All right, so Victor, the gentleman was asking how to request a 935 to run more on Saturdays and Sundays, and I guess in a broader sense, it might benefit people to know how they can request, whatever route they might be riding. So how can people sort of contact Metro and let them know that they enjoy the route and would like more frequency?
Well, while most service planners at King County Metro ride the bus themselves on a regular basis, and certainly as part of our job, we're out on the bus system, using the system and seeing how it works. We very much encourage customers to contact Metro to tell us what is working, what's not working, where they'd like to see different services. So we welcome contacts from the public, from current riders or people who would like to ride Metro. They can do that through any number of ways. Write us, call us, send us a fax, send us an email.
Any form of communication?
Just about any form of communication is available and welcome. We have a customer assistance office that can be reached Monday through Friday between 8 and 5. Their number is 206-553-3000. People can send emails to a customer comment email destination at customer.comments@kingcountymetro.gov. Or they can reach us online at Metro Online. And you can send us a letter to our offices as well.
Yeah, and I would imagine some of those, the number of comments is going to be going up considering the number of riders keeps going up, so there's going to be a lot of different people observing a lot of different routes. All right, so we got one more question to listen to.
I'd like to see a Metro ride from Redmond to Tacoma. How does Metro determine what rides go where?
All right, so we heard the question. The gentleman would like to know, how does Metro decide where its routes go? And I'm sure that that's a pretty complex question, and you can sort of simplify it for us.
Well, the simplest way is that we try to put our routes where we think the most people will use them. We go through planning processes working with all of the cities in King County. We try to regularly engage the public through surveys, through the comments we talked about earlier that we receive, and through active planning, making proposals for changes in service organization, the routes serving any given geographic area. And from time to time, we move throughout the county, kind of examining the metro route network that we have in that part of the county. We also work with our neighboring agencies and the regional agencies, Sound Transit, Community Transit, Pierce Transit, all work together. We meet regularly as planning groups and planning staff to examine what each of us are hearing, where service might be most effective. Inter-county services are typically provided by Sound Transit as the regional transit agency. Many of those inter-county connections are made individually on our systems through transfers. And whether it's within King County, transfers at our transit centers located in our major activity hubs of the system, both transferring within the metro system as well as transferring to and from our regional system.
Got it. Well, Victor, you've given us a lot of good information today, and we've responded to some of the questions that the riders have had. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Coming up, the snow just won't stop falling at King County's Skycomish Maintenance Yard, and inspecting winter weather damage hundreds of feet below the ground using one of King County's bravest employees. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The holidays may have come and gone, but you might not know it based on the weather in the King County town of Skycomish. The Road Services Division has a maintenance yard just outside Skycomish where the snowfall at times this winter has averaged a foot a day. Needless to say, keeping roads clear and people moving has been no small task for the four-man crew.
I think this year by December, I think we pretty much had what we would have had for I'm not going to say a normal winter, but what we've had for a winter in the past. This is probably more snow than I've seen in 20-some years since I've been a part of up here.
For Bob Pugh and his crew, since the snow started, the work hasn't stopped. Bob is the assistant supervisor at the King County Road Services Division's Skycomish Maintenance Yard. A late January snowstorm brought the Skycomish crew problems in fours. About 4 feet of snow in 4 days, and
we got a four-person crew, and we're just plowing, trying to push it back into every nook and cranny, anywhere that people let us push it. Just trying to keep the road open so people can still carry on with what they need to carry on with.
The snow has left the city of Skycomish and surrounding unincorporated areas essentially buried. The road clearing efforts by city and county crews left piles of snow on the side of the road so high, crews eventually had to pile the snow in trucks and dump it at the Skycomish Maintenance Yard. King County Executive Ron Sims issued an emergency proclamation to authorize help from within the Road Services Division. To assist the county's regular four-man crew, additional county staff and equipment were sent.
We're doing pretty good. We got a really good support staff from Renton, and they're up here giving us a hand just because it doesn't seem to want to quit. I'd say since Sunday we've probably had an additional 4 feet of snow, and the roads have a tendency to want to get narrow. So I think we've got 8 trucks, 2 loaders, a grader, a dozer, and we're just trying to move snow from the clogged up areas to a big place where we can store it till it can melt naturally. I mean, we're in town. We've got 2 trucks in a backhoe in Skycomish. We're trying to give them a hand because of the narrowing streets and the piling snow they have too.
Two people who were doing their best to keep from getting buried were Mark Stolinga and John Locatelli. Mark is a professor and John is a scientist at the University of Washington. This is the first winter they've rented a house in Skykomish to study snow at Stevens Pass. They say even shoveling the snow in front of the house involves some scientific knowledge.
How does the shoveling involve calculus in layman's terms?
Well, because the rate of decrease of the snow pile can be calculated using calculus.
Okay.
Because calculus is useful for calculating rates. Well, that's what we're doing in our head. Being scientists, we're calculating how fast this is going down and how quick we can get inside.
Skykomish crew members say they'd seen more snow by this last December than they see for some whole winters. They also say some of the biggest snowstorms can happen in the middle or end of March.
It might get worse before it gets better.
Well, I hate to be a predictor. They say the only people up here that predict the weather is a tourist and a fool.
Well, we all know what kind of damage winter weather conditions can bring here in King County, but the damage isn't always visible to the naked eye. It can be buried hundreds of feet underground in places that would be extremely dangerous for a worker to inspect. In cases like these, it's good to know the roads division doesn't have to send any human workers. It has a small specialist that's just right for the job.
Today's the 7th of December 2007. We're at King County on Newport Way.
You've heard the saying, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Be going from the upstream portion of this line.
The truth is, this job is also wet, cramped, and downright dangerous. That's why people don't do it anymore. Whenever the King County Road Services Division needs to check out a roadside culvert or any other area that's too small or too dangerous for a human to check, they send in a small specialist. Frank Overton, a supervising engineer with the Roads Division, says the so-called robotic crawler comes in very handy in these situations.
This robotic crawler, I mean, as you can see by the size of the pipe and the potential safety issues associated with having somebody enter that pipe, which is, basically prohibited by labor and industries, we needed the robotic crawler as a tool to enter the pipe and give us information that isn't readily available by looking at the surface. So it's a very useful tool in accomplishing that task of inspecting this and giving us information that we don't have readily available to us in making our engineering decisions about how to fix this culvert or how to address the repair of the roadway above.
45 feet, we have exposed rebar.
In this case, the culvert and roadway in question are along Southeast Newport Way in Bellevue. An early December rainstorm sent a surge of water and debris through the small culvert that runs along Newport Way. About 85 feet in, the culvert gave way, causing a large sinkhole on the road's shoulder. The sinkhole is what led crews to believe the culvert may be damaged. But damage to the culvert wasn't the only concern.
Okay, I'm standing over where the sinkhole was, and again, the culvert pipe is down 65 feet below me. And part of the reason, this is just adjacent to on the shoulder of the roadway, but part of the reason why it's important is that we've got all these communication lines in here. We've got traffic, we've got a water and sewer lines through there, we've got aerial power. So besides traffic, there's a lot of things that are happening in the roadway that are important to preserve. And for safety reasons, we don't want a 24-inch water line collapsing and causing more damage.
Upon running the robotic camera through the culvert, the suspicions were confirmed. Exposed rebar in several areas and a large hole in the bottom of the culvert, damage that certainly required repair. Frank says it's much easier to calculate a game plan after seeing the damage from just inches away.
And it gave us pretty much the exact location of where the damage was. There's other damage along the culvert that's, been generated based on material moving through. The culvert is at a 10% slope, so there's a substantial amount of rock and sand coming through, and in portions of the culvert you can see exposed rebar, damage to the flow line of the culvert, and those things lead us to generate an engineering solution that we need to get a new pipe in here to address the flows, to keep from experiencing further damage, until we can engineer a permanent solution for this area.
More investigation will be needed to confirm whether the hole in the culvert directly caused the road to sink. The solution, at least in the short term, will be to fuse these large polyethylene pipes together and put them through the entire culvert. Frank says a more permanent future solution could be a larger culvert to handle the water and debris. But until then, it's nice to know he and other engineers can get a close-up view of damage in dangerous places from the safety of a utility truck. Coming up, how the King County Road Services Division is keeping traffic moving in rapidly growing areas of the county. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's safe to say that King County is always growing. With a steadily rising population come new schools, new businesses, and new housing. The challenge for the Road Services Division is keeping up with that growth and making sure roads the county maintains reflect the needs of the communities that use them. The nearly 2,000 miles of roadway the King County Road Services Division is responsible for is ever-changing. Whether the road is in need of maintenance, repair, or improvement, the division's work is never done. And with a population that is constantly on the rise, the needs of county residents are always evolving, and our roads will have to reflect those needs. One area that reflects those evolving needs right now is the intersection of 124th Avenue Southeast and Southeast 304th Street just outside Auburn. The recent addition of a high school nearby, along with plans for commercial and residential developments, has prompted county engineers to decide a traffic signal won't cut it anymore. I traveled out to the intersection with County Engineer Don Bleasdale to get a sense of what will happen there and why. Well, we're out here today at the intersection of 124th Avenue Southeast and Southeast 304th Street. We're just outside of Auburn, and I'm here with Don Bleasdale. Don, thanks for joining us, first of all.
You're welcome.
You're the project manager of the work that's going on right behind us, so tell us what we're trying to accomplish here.
We're going to construct a roundabout at this intersection. As you can see right now, they have preliminary utility relocation taking place, but within 3 months we'll start actual construction of the roundabout. And we'll keep you posted throughout the construction phasing as we go through the entire process. How we got to this point is increased congestion at the intersection. We looked at several alternatives. One was an intersection with a left turn channelization and right turn channelization, and the other was a roundabout. As we went through the process, the more we looked at the intersection with the signalization, we didn't come up with a good level of service. We came up with mitigation impacts that were great based on wetlands, drainage. The roundabout process looked a lot better for us, and so we went that route. What we're going to install here is a single lane roundabout, which is similar to most roundabouts in the state. And as we go through the process again, we'll keep you posted of what takes place.
So Don, right behind us we see that there's a signal in here right now which will soon be replaced with the roundabout. And actually, we were talking about it off camera. King County is a place that doesn't have a whole bunch of roundabouts right now, and it's sort of a new thing, that's going in at some intersections. Tell me why a roundabout, basically.
At this intersection, we looked at the traffic analysis for a signal and a roundabout, and after going through the analysis, it appeared that the roundabout would be a better alternative for us. There aren't a lot, as you mentioned, in King County, but it's a relatively new tool that we're starting to use and becoming more comfortable with the use of those.
Well, tell me how it affects the traffic flow compared to a light.
Okay. Well, with the roundabout, you have a slow, steady stream of traffic going through it. With the traffic signal, as you can see behind us, traffic is stopped and then starting, stop and start. So you have queues, long queues sometimes, depending on the operation of the signal and the amount of traffic using it at that time.
And it's also a little bit safer. There are fewer accidents at roundabouts.
Right. The safety record for a roundabout, single lane roundabout that we're installing is the same as an always stop. So therefore, you don't have that much accident.
You don't have people basically trying to, squeeze in at the end of a red light and then maybe causing an unsafe situation where there'd be an accident.
Right. You don't have the red light running that you do with the traffic signal. Right. And you don't have the confusion of the high-speed side impact accidents as well.
So Don, we've established that a roundabout is a good alternative for intersections that are going to see a high traffic volume. We also know that the complexion of this area is going to change immensely very soon. So go into, how much traffic this area is going to be seeing pretty soon and why.
As you can see, just to the north of us is a large development going in, commercial and residential. Off to the east as well is another residential development coming in. We've got a new high school, Auburn Mountain View, just north of us as well that went in. Several elementary schools in the area, middle school in the area. So we have quite a bit of traffic being generated. We have Green River Community College to the south of us.
Right. And we're seeing a lot of traffic go by already right now, and you're talking about all the commercial stuff that's going to go in, and hundreds of houses beyond the commercial stuff and on the corner over here, so it's going to see a ton of traffic.
It will, and the roundabout will be able to accommodate all of that based on the capacity.
All right, so what we're saying right now is that this construction is going to be starting late spring, early summer, and it's going to be done by the end of the summer?
Exactly, a 3-month construction period.
Okay, so a lot of changes to this particular intersection. Don, thank you very much for joining me.
Okay, nice to meet you.
The Road Services Division has many tools at its disposal to keep traffic moving depending on the needs in certain areas. Sometimes a roundabout is best, and other times a little bit more technology is needed. Technology like what the Roads Division calls ITS, or Intelligent Transportation Systems.
Intelligent Transportation Systems, or better known as ITS, is a program here at King County where we interconnect and coordinate traffic signals along a corridor. The intersection behind me is at Petrovinsky 140th, one of 22 signals along the Trans Valley corridor in South King County. ITS is important for the region. ITS is important for the users from the perspective that it coordinates signals, synchronizes the signals to better move traffic along the corridor.
The ITS systems have been added all along the Trans Valley Corridor, a 7-mile arterial that runs between South Center Parkway and Southeast 184th in South King County, as well as along Northeast 124th Street, which runs through Kirkland and over I-405. The idea is pretty simple. Traffic engineers use computer systems to make sure the signals are keeping cars moving along the selected corridors.
In the ITS corridor, traffic signals are coordinated. This is done with the controller, or basically the computer at the intersection that's communicating with the other traffic signals. This is done along a fiber optic communication system. Timing plans are implemented by traffic engineers and monitored by those engineers in the traffic control center. Whenever the traffic engineers see backup or congestion at the intersection, the engineers can make adjustments to make traffic flow better at these intersections.
Reduced travel times along ITS corridors aren't the only benefit. With fewer cars backing up and idling at traffic signals, less greenhouse gas is emitted into the air.
One of the advantages of ITS and in signal coordination is to reduce emissions. The emissions that are reduced are hydrocarbons and carbon dioxide, one of the greenhouse gases. With the signals synchronized, traffic flows better, there's less fuel consumption, there's less emissions, and that's one of the big selling points of ITS for the county, for the cities, and also the region.
A third ITS system is planned along Avondale and Novelty Hill roads in Redmond. But whether it's a complex fiber optic network that keeps traffic moving or a roundabout where a light once was, the Road Services Division is making constant changes to county roads to make sure they meet the needs of residents who use them. Thanks for joining us for this episode. Remember, you can watch anytime you want to on the web. Just visit kingcounty.gov, click on Transportation Today, and then Inside Transportation. Also, please email us your questions or comments to kctv@kingcounty.gov. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode. We'll see you next time on Inside Transportation. Welcome to Inside Transportation, presented by the King County Department of Transportation in conjunction with KCTV. I'm Matt Reichmann. Thanks for joining us. Well, it's a celebration that had a willing and eager audience in the Pacific Northwest. The Green Festival kicked off its 4-city tour this year with its first ever stop in Seattle. King County co-sponsored the event and took advantage of the opportunity to share all its green practices with residents, including how they can green up their homes and commutes.
With global earth warming, the climate will change.
It was one weekend when Seattle was even greener than normal. The Green Festival, a celebration of all things eco-conscious, made its first ever trip to Seattle as it kicked off its 4-city tour for 2008. King County was a proud co-sponsor of the event and hosted its pavilion that featured exhibits and information about the Department of Transportation's green practices and about how the more than 30,000 festival goers could green up their homes and commutes.
Or all of the above?
All the above.
You are a winner today. Let's see, do you take the bus?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There were hands-on exhibits that demonstrated the environmentally friendly direction the Road Services Division is heading. Among the more popular was the porous concrete and porous asphalt exhibits. The county recently installed the porous concrete for the first time on a sidewalk along Military Road and 272nd just outside Auburn.
One of the key items we're looking at is incorporating impervious concrete and asphalt and low-impact development techniques for stormwater management, and got some samples here of pervious concrete and asphalt, and those seem to be getting a lot of interest. A lot of people have sort of heard about it. Some are telling me, they just haven't had a chance to actually see it, touch it, feel what it looks like. They seem to be interested in using it on some of their own personal landscaping projects.
King County Metro was also showing off how it can help county residents green up their commutes. Hundreds visited Metro's table to learn about using Trip Planner as well as carpooling, van pooling, and car sharing opportunities. On top of all that, festival goers heard King County Transportation Project Manager Melody Bennett speak about conserving fuel when they drive.
But things that actually proved to be effective, such as driving within the speed limit. Who would have thought it? Also, not doing jackrabbit starts and sudden stops, anticipating, looking ahead at the road ahead of you so that you know if you have to stop so you can slow down. And keeping your tires properly inflated, reducing drag, not dragging around too much luggage in your vehicle, and having your vehicle properly maintained. And of course, the capstone is not idling. Just switch off when you're not using your vehicle. If you have to idle for more than 30 seconds, I should say, switch off the vehicle. A lot of fuel savings, up to 30 or more % fuel savings if we combine some of these tips.
These great tips are especially relevant in a region where transportation continues as the largest source of carbon emissions. The Green Festival will also make stops in Chicago, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco throughout 2008. Sticking with the green theme, they aren't literally but figuratively green light bulbs that the county installed at its road maintenance headquarters in Renton recently. Puget Sound Energy awarded the county a grant to replace older, less efficient bulbs. As a result, the Renton facility expects to cut its power by more than half this year and will be receiving a large rebate from PSE. You could call it the bright idea that will save King County some big bucks and at the same time help the environment. The county's road services maintenance headquarters in Renton was built in the early 1970s and at that time outfitted with these standard fluorescent light bulbs. Now, more than 30 years later, some of the county's roads employees are leading the way in creating a greener, more energy efficient workplace. Alex Ho, a King County road services engineer, learned about a Puget Sound Energy program that provides rebates of up to 50% in exchange for the implementation of energy saving measures. Along with some of his colleagues, Alex proposed the replacement of the old fluorescent bulbs with newer, far more efficient models. PSE accepted the proposal and awarded the Road Services Division with a $76,000 grant to move forward with the replacement project.
Okay, this is a building at the Renton site. It's the administrative building, which functions as an office and an emergency event dispatch building, and is manned 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's approximately 3,700 square feet in size. There are 93 fixtures that had retrofit kits installed and 9 old fixtures had been removed. There are 8 motion sensors that were installed and 3 existing signs upgraded. The estimated energy savings for this building is 26,000 kilowatt hours per year. Okay, we're over at K Building now, and you can see the contractor behind me on site is doing some of the retrofit work. He's swapping out the T12 light bulbs for the T8s. The T12s are usually about a 12,000 hour bulb, and the T8s are going to be a 30,000 hour bulb. So we're going to be saving about 2.5 times the energy on these lights here. And it's also going to cut down on maintenance and the waste of light bulbs.
Speaking of kilowatt hours per year, the entire facility's consumption will be cut by more than half in 2008. The prior number of kilowatt hours, about 445,000, will drop to just 220,000. On top of the money saved in reduced energy consumption, a little over $15,000, the county will receive a rebate from Puget Sound Energy of $76,000. The reduction in energy use is not only due to the more efficient bulbs.
Okay, we're over at buildings K and L now. They're 9,600 square feet each. They're used for stores and the parking garage for division crews. Previously, the lights were on 24 hours a day. We've since installed a timer switch located right over here on the wall where the crews can come in and turn the lights on for any amount of time. They'll automatically go off. We've also installed photo sensors up on the roof and a center row of emergency lights in the middle of the building.
In all, more than 700 of the older fluorescent T12 bulbs will be replaced with the newer T8s, helping the Renton facility to comply with King County Executive Ron Sims' call in 2006 for the county to reduce energy use by 10% by the year 2012.
Spring has sprung, and that means a busy road construction season is on the way. We'll take a look at the major work the Roads Division has planned right after the break. Spring is here, and with wintry conditions subsiding, several road projects will soon be getting underway in unincorporated areas of the county. I recently sat down with Jennifer Lindwall, who is the manager of the Capital Improvement Program and Planning section. Here's what we discussed about the upcoming construction season.
All right, Jennifer, first of all, thank you for joining me to talk about this.
Thank you for having me.
So I think it's your second appearance with me, and we're glad to have you back. I think, in preparation for this segment, we were talking about a project out at Southwest 98th. Right now, we're talking about the fact that spring is coming, and that's a good thing for everybody, that the sunshine's going to come. But also, that's when, obviously when we start doing more and more construction projects. You were telling me about a project out at Southwest 98th, which I think is around White Center.
White Center area.
Okay, so tell me what makes this project sort of unique and different.
Southwest 98th Street project is actually one of the first of its kind for us. It's a multi-jurisdictional project, meaning that there is involvement from a couple of different agencies within the county, as well as the King County Housing Authority, that developed the new Green Bridge housing development up there in White Center. So the Southwest 98th, there is the Green Bridge development is currently somewhat separated from the main White Center commercial business district. Right. So what we're trying to do is provide a non-vehicle connection so that these people can maybe even just walk to the grocery store or to the coffee shop or whatever. And right now there's sort of a steep hillside that they would need to cross with some rickety old stairs and not ADA accessible. So what the county is doing is taking that area and making it friendly for pedestrians, bicycles, strollers, that sort of thing. We also have involvement from the Cultural Resources and the Arts Commission. So there's an artist involved in the project as well, using the natural form. So instead of it being a concrete art or metal art, they're actually going to use the landscape and do some plantings as their art contribution to the project. So the hope is that this provides a connection so that people don't necessarily have to get into their car and drive a long way around, that they have a shorter, more healthy, more accessible way to get to the businesses on the other side.
And we talk about making, communities that are more walkable, and also a lot of, different ways to try and get people out of their cars. So this sort of is, both of those things. And
both of those things, and also helping with the climate change initiatives and keeping things a little bit greener in many ways. So.
And speaking of greener, there are also going to be some more ITS projects coming up. In our last episode, we sort of introduce people to the idea and how it's out at Trans Valley and Kirkland and kind of keeps traffic, moving, and it helps people, stay in the car for, less time, and also keeps traffic moving, and it, is going to reduce greenhouse gases naturally because of that. So we have more of those coming up. Also give me an idea of how it's working where it's already been implemented.
We actually did some before and after studies down in the Trans Valley corridor in South King County, and what we found was that having these sort of technological efficiency improvements in the roadway facilitated traffic moving much smoother. And what we found is about a 30% reduction in travel times throughout the corridor, which is fairly significant when you're looking at a several mile long corridor. So this year we're actually going to be out in mostly the northeast King County area along Juanita-Woodinville Way, 100th Avenue Northeast, and Avondale going up into the Novelty Hill Road corridor to be doing some of the similar treatments in each of those three corridors, so that we can hopefully, although we can't necessarily be adding pavement to make your commute any better, by using efficiencies and the technology, that you can get some benefit and some travel time reduction, which I think is what it's all about.
It is,
the time that it takes to get from point A to point B.
The way the traffic is, in the area, it seems to, just be getting worse with how many more people are driving and how the population keeps going up, so that's a good thing. The last thing that we wanted to hit on was short span bridges. These are, well, by definition, they're shorter than 20 feet. They're the kinds of bridges that you might drive over and not even realize that you did drive over a bridge, but a lot of them are aging, and a lot of them were made out of timber, in the 1950s, so it's sort of a priority for us. Give us an idea of what's going on in that process.
It's going to be a multi-year program to start replacing some of these short span bridges. As you said, most of them were built in the 50s. Many of them are timber, and based on the construction and the way that they were built in the 50s, a lot of them use creosote. So that some of that now, the timbers are breaking down. They're rotting inside. We live in a wet environment, which isn't always conducive to good use of sturdy wood.
Right.
So having a systematic program to go out and start replacing those has been a fairly important part of our program and what we've been striving to do for the past couple of years. The challenge for us has been that they are not eligible for traditional bridge type grants. So they're completely on the county's dime and figuring out a way to get the most bang for the buck, if you will. So what we've been doing is starting to look at developing the program. We did 2 short span bridges last year, kind of got our feet wet with it and figured out a few things, and then the program is going to replace about 4 per year for the next 6 to 8 years, and hopefully that'll take care of the high priority ones. Most people are going to notice that when we do these, they're clustered because of efficiencies, that we will have maybe a contractor that does all 4 of them, similar in nature and in a similar geography, so that they don't have to mobilize in multiple different locations throughout the year. And this year we're going to be sort of focusing on the eastern part of King County, east of Lake Sammamish, and we've got a couple bridges out there that are going to be replaced this year, and then we'll move about the county a little bit over the course of the 6-year CIP, and we are going to be investing about $18 million in replacing these bridges for the 6-year program that we've got going right now.
All right, so some serious work going on this construction season.
We got some good projects going on.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Up next, a look at how King County International Airport keeps so many packages moving, big honors for some Metro Transit police deputies, and how Metro Route 308 will soon lead to a special I Do. We'll be right back. Every day it comes into King County International Airport, and every day it goes out. KCIA handles a significant amount of the cargo that's shipped throughout our region. In that way, it keeps those goods and helps keep the regional economy moving. Every day at King County International Airport, it comes rolling in. Cargo, the stuff people are sending each other regionally, nationally, or internationally.
There's a box coming from Walla Walla, Washington, going to La Chapelle in France. So it's an international package.
KCIA is among the busiest commercial airports in the U.S. It averages around 300,000 takeoffs and landings every year, directly employing about 4,000 people and indirectly employing more than 10,000. The airport is home to more than 150 businesses that, according to economic studies, contribute about $1.6 billion to the Puget Sound economy. Ameriflight is one of those businesses. It services smaller communities, transporting small air cargo via KCIA to larger air cargo companies such as UPS that operate worldwide.
You can sort of think of us as the commuter airline of the cargo boxes. The big jets may come to a city such as Seattle, and we'll take those boxes to the smaller towns such as Yakima or Wenatchee, and in little airplanes. So we're like the commuters for the boxes. Most of our planes are flying full, and if they're not, then they'll get full. They'll grow into it, but it's a lot of volume, and we have something over 200 aircraft flying throughout the country, and in the Caribbean. We fly as far south as Venezuela.
Regionally, on top of Yakima and Wenatchee, Ameriflight also services Lewiston, Walla Walla, Tri-Cities, and Moses Lake. In the early 1980s, when it began operating at Boeing Field, the kinds of cargo going back and forth were quite a bit different from what they are now.
What started off was mostly bank work, checks, physical checks. And over the years, the banks have gotten smart and gone to a scanning system, a lot of them. So the physical checks are kind of dwindling.
So as the internet has made it drastically easier for banks to operate in cyberspace, it's no longer checks and statements that dominate Ameriflight's cargo loads. Cargo aboard Ameriflight planes now ranges from the potentially life-saving
medical specimens. We'll have things come up here for patients that are on the operating table early in the morning, and they have to rush this medical specimen to the hospital.
To the four-legged.
Wolves. We brought some wolves that were stranded down there in the Bay Area. And they brought, I think there's a group up here near Olympia, Wolf Haven. They take care of wolves. We've flown that. We've flown a lot of weird things.
To the entertaining.
It could be a DVD for a commercial. It could be a new release of a song by an artist that's recording up here and he needs to get it to LA that next day, and it'll be there. Super Bowl commercials were filmed up here, sent down to LA for the Super Bowl to be on the network. We've done that.
King County International Airport is owned by King County but draws no county funds, relying on tenant fees to support its operations. In fact, the airport generates almost $40 million in tax money every year. That should be the case for some time, as tenant surveys have shown that 70% expect their future revenues to increase, which will help to ensure that KCIA will continue to help keep the economy in our region moving.
They work hard every day to help make your rides aboard Metro buses safe. They are the transit police deputies who patrol Metro's system and its facilities to ensure the security of riders and operators. Recently, King County Sheriff Sue Rahr recognized 2 current deputies and 1 former Metro Transit sergeant for their excellence and bravery on the job.
To call them Metro Transit Police's finest would be a very appropriate description. At a recent ceremony at the Criminal Justice Training Center in Burien, King County Sheriff Sue Rahr awarded 2 current deputies and 1 former Metro Transit sergeant for their bravery and hard work. And it took a lot of bravery for Deputy Tim Shook to earn the Lifesaver Award. Shook is now a deputy with Metro Transit Police, but spent 12 years as part of the air support unit that flew Guardian 1, one of the Sheriff's Office's police helicopters. In November of 2006, Shook, along with 2 fellow members of the air support unit, set out to find a hiker who had been missing in the Cascades for days.
Basically down a trail and into what we call the Pratt River Basin, and that's where she was. And then once she got down there, they couldn't find her, had no idea she'd gone down there apparently. The weather turned really, really nasty, and she was just there. So I think she was there for like 2 days before we found her. It was quite a while.
Tim and the team spotted the hiker collapsed along the Pratt River. In order to get to her, Deputy Shook had to hover Guardian 1 just 6 feet above the river, while Sergeant Sidney Jackson jumped out onto a boulder. A Navy helicopter eventually came and rescued the hiker with a winch. Deputy Shook says he was just part of the team.
It was teamwork all the way around. My co-pilot, Mark Rockwood, he was calling out obstacles and where we were from tree branches and so on and so forth, and I'm just trying to maintain the hover exactly where I want it and where he wants me to be. So it worked out really well. And it's, you know, if it's not something that's impossible to do. You just have to work very closely with everybody else and bring all your skills to bear on that.
How you doing, man? Good.
Deputy Patrick McCurdy's award was less about daring maneuvers and more about coming to work every day and doing his job with excellence. As a transit police deputy, McCurdy's job is to patrol the downtown Seattle Transit Tunnel as well as areas around it, always looking out for the safety of passengers using Metro. His peers, supervisors, and command staff all agree that Deputy McCurdy goes above and beyond as a deputy and police trainer for the MTP. Not only does he go the extra mile to create new training opportunities for his fellow officers, he has also proven to be a subject matter expert on several fronts.
And I just sat there and I thought, my God, how did you gain all of that information? This guy is a walking encyclopedia. If you want to know—
Sheriff Rahr awarded McCurdy with the Deputy of the Year on behalf of the entire Sheriff's Office. For Patrick, it's all in the family. Ironically, he won Deputy of the Year on the 30th anniversary of his father winning the same award in Hayward, California. But his law enforcement lineage goes far beyond that.
You know, I grew up, my father as a police officer, retired after 40 years. My mother was a deputy before she had me. I've got an uncle who's a highway patrolman. Like you said, for 14 years here and a few years in California before that. My brother is a King County sex crimes detective, now a new sergeant, just got promoted. And my wife used to work for King County in Metro, actually. She was the first, one of the first Metro deputies down here. So I grew up with this. I remember when I was 7 years old, my dad was a SWAT team commander, and he held me hostage for a scenario, and SWAT team rescued me, and I rappelled off the side of the building with the SWAT team. So I don't know, that was definitely an influence, and it's kind of in my blood. But I love doing what I'm doing. It's the greatest job in the world. Sorry about that. Oh, the chain popped.
Patrick is a founding member of Metro's bicycle squad known as the Bees and was instrumental in the process of returning tunnel patrols to the Metro Transit Police when the transit tunnel reopened last fall after its 2-year retrofit. He gives credit for his award to his co-workers. He says they're the best people he's worked with his entire career. They even took the liberty of creating a special name for the bike he uses to do his job, and bearing in mind Patrick's considerable physical stature, the name fits.
At one point during the winter, with all of my winter gear on, I weighed myself and I was 311. Plus we have all the ticket books and the gas masks and the other equipment, so this thing struggles. So I didn't pick the name, but one day I came in and my bicycle was named the Mongo Burrito, probably because it has to support me and haul me around. And I've broken a few chains and bent a few rims along the way. So.
The highest honor given out by the Sheriff's Office is the Medal of Valor. This year that honor went to former Metro Transit Police Deputy James Lang. In late January of 2007, Sergeant Lang happened upon an armed robbery in progress. The suspect had been threatening to kill the victim. After Sergeant Lang identified himself as an off-duty officer, the suspect turned his gun toward the sergeant in a threatening manner. Lang fired twice, killing the suspect.
I felt throughout all of this that I was just doing my job, my duty, and it was a very unpleasant duty that I had to perform that day. I'm really honored that the department would give the award to me. I know they don't do these things lightly, but at the same time, I'm really thinking I just did my duty, and that's it. When the sheriff gave me the award at the ceremony, I was pretty nervous, and I don't like being the center of attention. I don't like being here today, to tell you the truth. It's kind of uncomfortable. I much prefer just to do my job, and that's all.
The extraordinary service exemplified in these 2 current and 1 former Metro deputy does stand out, but they are just 3 of many, many Metro deputies who work hard to make Metro's transit system safe every day, for both passengers and the many neighborhoods it serves.
For at least one afternoon, Metro's Route 308 became what you might call the love bus. 3 years ago, 2 Metro riders, Troy Cleveno and Christy Shea, met on that route. And though neither of them still rides the 308, Troy decided it was the best place to ask Christy if she'd be his wife.
This is also the bus where I looked at Christy for about 6 months before I could work up the nerve to even talk to her. It was so bad that my friends at work referred to her as the bus girl because we didn't know her name. So that brings us to this point, sweetie. It's been a great 2.5 years, and I love you so much. And I figure that with everything you want me to fix about myself, it's going to take another 40. So I guess what I'm getting to is, this is the point on the bus where I ask bus girl to become my bus wife? That's a yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it fits. Wow. Love you. You gotta put all this work to get you on this bus again for nothing?
Good luck. Congratulations.
Well, thanks so much again.
Nice. Which way are we heading?
Oh, you do this walking away.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. Remember, you can watch anytime you want to on the web. Just visit kingcounty.gov, click on Transportation Today, and then Inside Transportation. Also, please email your questions or comments to kctv@kingcounty.gov. I'm Matt Reichmann. We'll see you next time on Inside Transportation.